Okay, we'll try that again without it. See if we can do it without my phone dropping.
Are we in this?
No, not right that second. Okay, minor technical difficulty. So what I was saying was, I'm gonna get your attention back. Sorry about that. My phone fell in the garbage. It's very entertaining. So we're gonna read a couple paragraphs or a couple sections, and then we're gonna get to this postcard project. I'll have a little digital presentation here where you will get to see students get their heads cracked, and then we're going to do a project based on that, which I was. Kickoff's going to come after we do this, and it's going to be a postcard project. So I will explain it in greater detail in just a minute. Let's get through the rest of the chapter, and then we can move on to the exciting project. So we have Persia becomes Iran. There's only 3 to read. So the first one, Persia becomes Iran. Aiden, how about you read that so you can get the head cracking quicker? Yeah, you're going to do it? Okay. Devin, we do it? It's page 456. Persia becomes Iran. It's the shortest one of the day. Thank you, Devin. Okay. And then Saudi Arabia keeps Islamic traditions. Spencer, you have more, please? Saudi Arabia keeps Islamic traditions. Awesome, thank you. And then, Jacob, would you read the last one for me? The oil drives development. Appreciate it. Okay, let's get through these and find 2 answers, and then we'll move on to a project. So, here we go. Let's be quiet so we can hear Devin. Thank you, Devin. 456, Persia becomes Iran. And the answer to how Persia gains independence is presumably in there.
Before World War I, both Great Britain and Russia had established spheres of influence in the ancient country of Persia. After the war, when Russia was still reeling from the Bolshevik revolution, the British tried to take over all of Persia. The maneuver triggered a nationalist revolt in Persia. In 1921, a Persian army officer seized power. In 1925, he disposed the ruling
Shah.
Persia's new ruler.
Let's see. You can just say Pahlavi. Doesn't really matter. We don't know.
Like Kemal in Turkey, set out to modernize his country. He established public schools, built roads and railroads, promoted industrial growth, and extended women's rights. Unlike Kemal, kept all power in his own hands. In 1935, he changed the name of the country from the Greek name Persia to the traditional name.
Okay, so thank you. So World War I is wrapping up. Russia's doesn't have its eye on the ball, meaning it's not really dominating Persia. And so what? Britain thinks it's time to slip in there and get control, maybe get their oil fields, get any money they can out of it, and what happens? Someone must have noticed. Yeah, Joanne? That's right. There was a revolt. In response to British attempts to gain control, there was a national revolt leading to the overthrow and establishment of Iran. So what Joanne just helped me answer, and you can all write down on your worksheets, is that there was a national revolt in response to British activity. Right, national revolt. So an army officer deposed the Shah and renamed the country. National revolt in response to the British. Jimmy, we are on page 456. All right. Yeah, has everyone got something there? The national revolt due to British behavior. National revolt due to British military leader seizes power. National revolt due to British activity. long tradition. Who did I ask? Spencer, you were gonna do that for me, please? 456?
While Turkey broke many Islamic traditions, another new country held strictly to Islamic law in 1902. I don't know.
Yeah, you can just say Saud.
Alright. A member of once powerful Arabian family began a successful campaign to unify Arabia. In 1932, he renamed the new kingdom Saudi Arabia after his family. Saud carried on Arab and Islamic traditions. The loyalty to the Saudi government was based on custom, religion, and family ties. Like Kemal and Reza Shah,
Yeah. Saud.
Saud brought some modern technologies such as telephones and radios to his country. However, modernization in Saudi Arabia was limited to religiously acceptable areas. There also were no efforts to begin the practice of democracy.
Yeah, right. Okay, so did you guys, so does this sound like modern technology to you guys? Telephones, like landlines, right? Connected to the wall. Telephones and radios. Does that sound like modern technology? Yeah. So what would, like today, if someone was going to modernize a country, what would they bring there? What would they want to have to? What would, like an example of modern technology be today? Probably not the radio. What do you think, Dante? What's modern today? What's cell phones? Oh, you got an answer? I hear you talking. Talking with nothing to say.
cell phone.
Oh, okay. Joanne? Yeah. Laptops, PCs, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. All that stuff. Okay, so there was an answer in there. So basically, we learned that after World War I, Turkey was losing control of Saudi Arabia, and then this guy, whose name we love to pronounce, Saud, unified tribes and founded the country. So after World War I, right? So does that sound like your answer? Yeah? Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense? We're talking about, right, World War I's over, Turkey's pulling out. This dude comes in and unifies all the tribes, changes the name. That sounds like an answer. Sure. So, after World War I, Turkey's leaving, and our buddy there, Saud, he unifies the tribes, creates the modern country that we know now as Saudi Arabia. Yeah, once we get that, we're going to move on to our
unifies the tribes. So after World War I, you just put WW1. Turkey leaves, and then our buddy Saud, he unites the tribes.
I don't know.
Need some help with the answer? So we were talking about that, after World War I, we saw like in all the maps, things were changing. Turkey was leaving, so they left what we now know as Saudi Arabia. And once there was no real power there, this dude Saud, or however we pronounce his name, he unifies the tribes, founds the country. So post World War I, Turkey leaves, Saud, or whatever his name actually is, unites tribes, and founds the country. So what's going to happen next is kind of like your kickoff, but it's going to be a little bit different. I have a little presentation, a digital presentation that's going to happen, and then we're going to have a brief discussion, and then you will do this postcard that I've been alluding to, and I'm going to explain it in better detail after a little bit more. So tomorrow will be your chapter test, is that correct?
You guys finished what one before?
Yeah, that was good. So tomorrow's your chapter test, and well, you know what that does is really assesses your whether or not you put the effort in to fill out your sheets, and then you'll be graded on that. This type of activity, this postcard, it doesn't. You're not graded on this. It just lets me know how well I did, giving you information or encouraging you to learn. It helps me understand what you retained and what you didn't retain, and hopefully it helps me improve my job. So if you would, Miss Good, here's going to be, so what we're going to do is we're going to look into, so Gandhi and Mao were both philosophers, they were both thinkers, they both wrote books. This is like an authentic one from India itself that I purchased there. It's really cool, it's made out of rice paper. If anyone wants to look at it, it's pretty interesting, it's like a really nice texture. They both published books, millions of people read them, millions of people were inspired by them, quoted them. But they had some differences as to how they would approach things, as well as some similarities. So we're going to look into them briefly. There's a couple of video clips, including skull cracking, and then we're gonna. What I'm going to have you do, I guess I'll start explaining now because it's a natural lead-in. Is you're going to identify with either Gandhi or Mao, and you're going to write a postcard. You know, dear whatever, dear Gandhi. And what you're going to do in that postcard is you're going to defend your position, critique their position. It could be one or the other or both. They tend to go together. Explain why your way is better, why it would work, and why you think the other person's wouldn't work. And you know, you don't have to. I'll help you. So this is not a lot of space. I mean, what's going to fit on there? Like 4 sentences or something? It might sound like a lot, but in actuality, I'm not asking you to write much. I am asking you to think, but I'm not asking you to write much, so it's not that daunting. So let's look at, where's it good? So here's some quotes. What I have are some quotes from Gandhi. So to answer brutality with brutality is to admit one's moral and intellectual bankruptcy, and it can only start a vicious cycle. What does bankruptcy mean in this sentence? Let's get an idea of what he means by bankruptcy. What's that? Literally bankruptcy would be defined as that, but how do you think he's applying? Because he's not a bank.
Say if like you're broke, can you like do this thing where you can like for like bankruptcy or something?
You can, yes. We're definitely defining bankruptcy. I'm looking for how he is trying to apply that concept to the context of this quote. What do you think, Jared?
He's saying he's like not an intellectual bankruptcy of intellectual.
Right, you're bankrupt of. So like you were both describing, you're lacking of. There's nothing there, right? Your account is empty, but instead of cash, it's your moral and intellectual account. This next one is probably his most famous. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Are we all aware of an eye for an eye comes from the Bible, right? The Old Testament. I haven't read it ever, but we all know it's a biblical thing, right? An eye for an eye, meaning like what? If I slap Joanne, she slaps me back, right? So that would be an example of an eye for an eye. So it's a very clever saying, right? Because an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. It's a very clever way to make an argument that violence doesn't help. You know, that's what he's getting at. So nonviolence is the only thing that the atom bomb cannot destroy. What could an atom bomb destroy? What do you think, Devin? Drop an atom bomb on Grass Valley, what would be gone? There's one thing that would probably make you happy.
Crackheads will be gone.
Crackheads, that's it. Lilia, say it louder, please. The school would be gone. I know you'd be crushed, but it would be gone, right? So the point. What's that? Oh. So the point of it is that you can destroy physical objects, but you cannot destroy a belief. So that's what he's trying to convey. And then, okay, go ahead, tell me now.
Maybe just like every single person believes in it, they die in stone.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Pretty much.
That could happen. I appreciate you thinking it through to that extent. However, it might be temporary because you wrote it down and millions of people read it. Oh, so you're saying if there's not one person left? Okay, well, sure. Absolutely. Or if all the books. Okay, I see.
You could get rid of it. Mr. was saying something about how like Japan or whatever, they control everything that they see.
North Korea.
North Korea?
Yeah, they can get rid of that. They would know about that, so.
Yeah, absolutely, they could. You know, there have been plenty of examples in history where totalitarian governments, they burn books, they ban books. We used to ban books right here in this country. And somehow the message survives. But those are all great examples of attempts to prove that false. So now, for the fun part, I have two brief clips. This first clip here shows Gandhi as a young lawyer in South Africa, British trained. Remember how we talked about yesterday? What was the influence of the people being trained in their Western colonial countries? Does anyone remember what that tended to do? Does anyone remember that conversation we were having? About, for example, an Indian person going to Britain and studying there, and the impact that would have. Do you recall that conversation? Do you remember what we came up with? It was like we were talking about, well, thanks for acknowledging it. We were talking about how when they go to the West, they see the standards of the rule of law and the different philosophical ideas that exist and they teach in that country that don't get applied in their own country. So that was that. But let's move on. Kelly, Ms. Good, would you please click that one right there? So this shows him as a young lawyer in South Africa, and he's giving a speech in response to a law passed. That's him here.
I want to welcome you all. Everyone.
Those are the British police.
We have no secrets. Let us begin by being clear about General Smuts' new law. All Indians must now be fingerprinted, like criminals, men and women. No marriage other than a Christian marriage is considered valid. Under this act, our wives and mothers are whores, and every man here is a bastard.
Yes, we got quite a bit of this. Only another minute or two. Here comes the crucial part.
A policeman passing an Indian dwelling, I will not call them homes, may enter and demand the card of any Indian woman whose dwelling it is. He does not have to stand at the door. He may enter. I'll kill the man who offers that insult to my home and my wife. And let them I say, talk means nothing. Kill up your officials before they disgrace one Indian woman. Then they might think twice about such laws. In that cause, I would be willing to die. I praise such courage. I need such courage because in this cause I too am prepared to die. But my friend,
Here it is.
there is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. Whatever they do to us, we will attack no one, kill no one, but we will not give our fingerprints, not one of us. They will imprison us, they will fine us, they will seize our possessions, but they cannot take away our self-respect if we do not give it to them. Have you been to prison? They beat us and torture us. I am asking you to fight. To fight against their anger, not to provoke it. We will not strike a blow. cannot. They may torture my body, break my bones, even kill me. Then they will have my dead body, not my own.
That should be the end of that clip. So there's a great demonstration of what he's talking about. He feels like by taking the high moral ground, that's how you win. And that when people see them being beaten and they're not defending themselves, they will gain sympathy and people will want to change. So there's a lot more I could say, but this is taking longer than I anticipated. So we're going to do this clip now. This is the one that we are looking forward to. This is the Saltworks March.
Last night at midnight, they took Gandhiji from us. They expect us to lose heart or to fight back. We will do neither.
They know what's going to happen. They're walking right into it. Don't look if you don't want to see someone get their head cracked.
No, sir. The gate is closed.
Alright, so you're standing there watching, and you know your turn is coming. Stay along. Thousands of people lined up to make their turn.
They walked, both Hindu and Muslim alike, with heads held high, without any hope of escape from injuries or death. It went on and on into the night. Stop.
That's how you
Women
reported your
carried
story.
wounded and broken bodies from the road until they dropped from exhaustion. Stop. But still, it went on and on. Stop. Whatever moral ascendancy the West held was lost here today. India is free, for she has taken all that steel and cruelty can give, and she has neither cringed nor retreated. Stop.
Okay, so remember yesterday we talked about civil disobedience and what that did towards Indian independence, that they got the sympathy, or the Salt March in particular. Our answer talked about how the world opinion turned against the British and towards them, and this event was one of the major reasons that happened. So you could spend a whole week or a whole year. There's probably courses on this, but we have like 30 minutes. So I'm going to go a little quicker than this topic really deserves, just to keep on track. So now let's contrast what we just learned about Gandhi with Mao. War is the highest form of struggle for resolving contradictions. It's a very different approach, right? So is Mao, do you think Mao's going to walk up to the Salt March calmly and let some dude crack him and then fall on the ground? What would he be more likely to do? Fight back. Thank you, Lily. All wars that are progressive are just. In this case, progressive meaning, I would say he's trying to say all wars that have good goals that benefit the people. That's how he's using the word progressive. And I'm skimming a little bit again just because we're short on time. So the seizure of power by armed force, the settlement of the issue by war is the simple task and the highest form of revolution. Well, Gandhi was leading a revolution as well, right? But he had a very different approach. He did not have that belief. War can only be abolished through war, and in order to get rid of the gun, it is necessary to take up the gun. So there's a fundamental question. Can you get rid of guns by using a gun? Does a gun solve a gun problem?
At first.
At first, okay. But yeah, I like that answer. Could you elaborate a little more? So you're saying at first, and if that tells me that you're not convinced.
People are more likely to rebel in larger groups than smaller groups.
Yeah, right. So maybe it's a temporary solution. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Like it might, like, sure, you might shoot all the people on that side of the room and they're not going to
No,
shoot.
you should just only shoot the people that are shooting at you.
Right. So let's say you just shoot everyone shooting at you, then for that day it's over, but maybe their friends come back or something else. Yeah. All right, so Haley's, that's a great demonstration. So this clip, this is just like a little 4-minute clip about Mao and this red book that he wrote that millions of people read. But you have to realize it was in a totalitarian state. So millions of people have read this book, and every single one, well, maybe some had to read it for school, but the vast majority chose to read it. And that is going to be different than what we see right here. Kelly, would you hit this one for me, please? The bottom link. Thank you.
China's Little Red Book. Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, 1964. There are a handful of books that have influenced hundreds of millions of people's lives over the decades, centuries, and millennia of human existence. Mao's Little Red Book, or Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, was one of these. It was a book of political and cultural statements based on the speeches, writing, and thoughts of China's communist leader, Chairman Mao Zedong. Mao was the Chinese revolutionary leader who, after leading a long armed struggle, helped found the People's Republic of China in 1949. His book, Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, which became commonly known as the Little Red Book, was the idea of General Lin Biao. Compiled by the staff of the People's Liberation Army Daily, it was first published in 1964. The book helped promote even further the personality cult that surrounded Mao and his own brand of communism that became collectively known as Maoism. The book would be printed by the hundreds of millions, and it got its name from the fact that it had a vivid red cover and was pocket-sized. The idea was for the party's faithful to carry it around with them constantly, so it was always ready at hand for them to consult and inspire. The book's slogan was, "Workers of the world unite," and at one stage in China during what was called the Cultural Revolution, it was almost mandatory to carry around a copy. The Chinese Cultural Revolution ran from 1966 to 1976 and was pioneered by Chairman Mao. Its aim was to rid communist China once and for all of the devils of capitalism and imperialist Chinese traditions. The final version of the Little Red Book contained 267 quotations covering 25 topics such as war and peace, unity, discipline, women, criticism and self-criticism, imperialism, and correcting mistaken ideas. One section was on how to be a good communist and citizen, stating a communist must be selfless with the interests of the masses at heart. He was to possess a largeness of mind as well as a practical, far-sighted mindset. Another stressed how everyone was involved. Intellectuals, students, soldiers, and the average peasant were to involve themselves in political work and study Marxism and Leninism. It was at first only distributed among top officials in order to get feedback. Then an expanded version was given out to the People's Liberation Army. Finally, a year later, in 1965, hundreds of print shops were set up across China, and it was made available to the masses. Because it was a simplified version of Mao's writings, the Little Red Book helped the peasants and workers understand Mao's ideas, therefore helping the widespread indoctrination of Mao's cult of personality and communist ideology. The authorities expected all loyal citizens to own a copy, and not only to carry it around at all times, but to actively read it on a daily basis for inspiration and guidance in all aspects of everyday life. Disrespecting or misquoting the book could get you in trouble. After that, it was actively promoted in communist countries, but when Chinese and Soviet relations started to turn sour during the 1960s, the book was banned in the Soviet Union. After Mao's death in 1976, his successors tried to discourage the book and its Maoist teaching.
There you have the Little Red Book. Let's see what we have time for. Not too much, but I think what I'd like to do is work on this together for a couple minutes, and then we'll be done. Does anyone have any thoughts that wanted to say about Mao? I thought it was kind of cute as a cartoon guy. Yeah? So, let's do something for a couple minutes, and then I'll have to talk to Miss Good.
What? You haven't played World of Warships
The
yet?
postcard itself, hopefully you can have a couple minutes at the beginning of class tomorrow, but I'm not sure how that would affect your test, so we'll see what happens. So we're all familiar with this, the Venn diagram idea? Everyone used them or seen them in their books, right? The idea is that things that describe Gandhi would be here, things that describe Mao would be here, and things that describe them both would go in the middle. I just learned what one was this year in my school program. So what are some things that come to mind? Someone like shout out some words, some adjectives, some descriptions that you feel like applies to one, the other, or both. What do you got?
For both, they're both revolutionaries.
Absolutely. They're both revolutionaries. I'm just gonna do that just because I don't draw the right size. That's absolutely correct. Aiden, give me an adjective, give me a description for either Mao or Gandhi. You think of a word that would describe any of their thoughts or actions. You know, you could say you thought Mao was cute as a cartoon character. Maybe you think Mao is violent. Would you say he's violent? I would. So, if he is violent, then what would a good word to describe Gandhi be?
Non-violent.
Thank you. In harmony, I like that. Non-violent. What else? Who else has got one? Devin, or join me. Influential writers, yes. Influential writers. Now, we saw that millions of people read Mao's book, and I'm telling you, it's true, I promise, that millions of people have read this book, but what was the difference? What was the difference in why people read the two books? What did it say in that little cartoony thing? The reason that many people were reading Mao's book? Forced, yes. So they were forced to read, meaning not, we'll just for simplicity say not forced, right? Anymore? You know, I did one this morning. I was thinking this was interesting. I feel like they're both patient, oddly enough, right? Because Gandhi was just kind of a patient dude, you know, he thought things through, he went on long marches and meditations. But if you think about it, what did we learn about what was the march called? The Great March, the Big March? Well, that one too, the Long March, I'm talking about Mao, right? The Long March, does that sound right? So, Mao had a situation where he could have continued to fight, or he could patiently retreat and regroup. And I was surprised to find out this morning I actually thought I was patient too. So, any other adjectives? Any other alias or any other description you'd like to give about either one of these that would apply to either one or both? Anything that comes to mind? No? I don't know, Dante, what do you think? If someone asked you, like, what was Gandhi like, man? What would you say? say he was mean? Say he was like a brute, bully? Gandhi? The guy who like tells his followers to go get their heads cracked without fighting back? Yeah? Peaceful. That is the perfect word, Lilith. Exactly. Peaceful. Right? As opposed to violent. Peaceful. I'm guessing that we're the bell. Yeah. Right. Oh, it's 4. I always get the Monday wrong. Oh, this is great. Okay. We actually have more time than we thought. I never get it right.
We get out early today.
Yeah, today's our
Is that true?
Yeah, but you still have 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's start working on these. And you can, if need be, you can have a couple minutes at the beginning of class. I was going to have someone else pass these out, but I got the timing wrong. So you see over there on the right of the board, it says dear. So you choose, right? You choose to be one. You're going to choose to be, please, ladies, you're going to choose to be one person, and you're going to write a postcard, other than yourself, and you're going to write a postcard to the other. And in that, you are going to state, you're going to write, you're going to criticize their opinion.
Wait, so what are we doing?
So you will choose to be either Mao or Gandhi. And you, once you make that decision, you will say, Dear Gandhi. And then you will write a couple sentences which criticize the other person.
So I would have somebody criticizing, so if I just be criticizing Gandhi.
Exactly. And so you will support your own perspective and philosophy. You may say why only your philosophy would work. You may say why the other's philosophy will fail. Someone,
Isn't this guy dead? Why are we sending him postcards?
because they're still alive here. And well, and more importantly, because their ideas are alive today, is really the point. So we're just using their names, but these ideas are there. These are ideas that are conflicting in the world today, and so that's why we would address them in this way. So is that clear? You choose who you are, Dear Mao, and then you write a couple sentences saying why your way is a better way. You can do that by criticizing the other person's way, supporting your way. So for example, you could say, Dear Gandhi, I think you're crazy to let someone crack you over the head. You know, or Dear Mao, I think you're mean and people won't like you. Right? Dear Gandhi, I love salt. But I wouldn't let someone crack me over the head for it without fighting back. Oh, cool, thanks. Oh, and then I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, and then put your name on the back, because obviously you're not Mao. So put your name on the back. That's a great question to ask him, you know? Like, what were you thinking, man? You know, what's up with that? Once you have it done, go ahead and hand it in to me. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Steph. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate you doing these. Appreciate you doing this. You got it, don't you? Just put your name on the back. Thanks, man. Were you calling me? Thank you. Thank you. I spelled Gandhi wrong, by the way.
What?
That's what I was thinking. So I think it's probably more like what? Gandhi. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate that. My bad. Spelling correction. You got it, Mike? Name on the back? Awesome. Thank you, Eden, not Devin. Thank you, Ciara. Thank you. cooperation and enthusiasm.
Daddy.
Nope. That does not mean leave. Keep my door shut.